There is not enough money in the universe that you can bribe me to care about Star Wars. Why are there so many finance bros in an Ali Hazelwood book? That's not what I signed up for. What book does Kara want to read? And then she sat down and wrote that. I recently finished making my way through Ali Hazelwood's adult romance back catalogue. In the throes of mental illness, let it be known, a mental health crisis was had, and the only thing that I could think of to make me feel better was to read copious amounts of romance books. And in my opinion, there is truly nobody out there who writes quite like Ali Hazelwood does. It's genuinely quite impressive to me just how addictive all of her books are, because I made my way through not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 Ali Hazelwood books within the span of less than 2 weeks. Now, is depression at least partially responsible for that? Yes. Her writing is 100% also part of the reason though. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know I'm not like a big romance reader. I like some romances. I have really enjoyed lots of Emily Henry's romance books. I've enjoyed some of Talia Hibbert's romance books, and I've read some others here and there that like I enjoyed them while I was reading them, so I had a good time. However, Ali Hazelwood's books are just a different breed for me, and I don't really know why. I don't like all of them, but I was obsessed with all of them while I was reading them, which is not an experience that I've really truly had with another author. And I find it really impressive that she's managed to do that for her entire back catalogue. So I basically just wanted to do a crash course to Ali Hazelwood video, so where you can just come and find out anything you want to know about her books, whether you think you'll enjoy them, whether you don't want to read them but you are feeling some FOMO about how many people talk about her. I feel like I have got quite a good handle on those sorts of things because I'm kind of an Ali Hazelwood agnostic, I would say. I'm not a super fan. I don't like all of her books. But I feel like there's a very big spread for me of how much or how little I like an Ali Hazelwood adult contemporary romance book. So even though I am subjective, I feel like because the spread is so wide, I can be objective as to the reasons why people love her books and also why people abhor her books sometimes. So first of all, who is Ali Hazelwood? Like I've mentioned, she is a contemporary romance author for the most part. She's written some other books as well, which I'll talk about briefly at the end, but I haven't read them, so I can't speak on them. She started out as a fanfiction author, and the first book that she published, The Love Hypothesis, was actually based on a Reylo fanfiction that she wrote and posted on AO3. A lot of people criticize The Love Hypothesis because it started out as a Reylo fanfiction. I could not care less. There is not enough money in the universe that you can bribe me to care about Star Wars. I don't care that it's a Reylo fanfiction. I just know that I love The Love Hypothesis. But back to Ali Hazelwood. Her day job before she became a full-time author was as a neuroscientist, and she has a PhD and she has been a professor at many different universities, and she sets most of her stories like in an academia or in a STEM setting because of it. And I really like it. I'm not a STEM girly, but I do really enjoy the academia setting especially. I like campus novels, so those novels really work for me, and I think you can kind of tell, like if I do my rankings as well, that the novels that are more centered around the academia parts and stuff like that, I enjoyed more. I think they were more compelling to me. So for this next part of the video, I just wanted to talk you through her 6 adult rom-coms that she has written so far, and to sort of give my just overview of the plot, the tropes that she uses, and also my personal rose and thorn for each of the books, because I do genuinely think there is an Ali Hazelwood book for everyone. I do think if you want to read a romance book, Ali Hazelwood has, by this point, written one that you will like. I'm going to go through the books in chronological order from when they were published for 2 reasons. I read them in that order, and the second reason is that her books, even though they aren't connected, apart from 2 of them, which is one is a spin-off from another one that she wrote, is that there are lots of Easter eggs connecting the books. Like they're all within this Ali Hazelwood cinematic universe. And it's not necessary for you to have read the previous books in order to understand what's going on in the other books, but it is just nice to have those little Easter eggs, and I really enjoyed it. So it's just really fun to find them. But without further ado, let's talk about the love hypothesis. So this story follows Olive, who is a PhD candidate at Stanford University, and the inciting incident of the book is where she kisses Adam, who is a professor at the university. And she does this because her friend, who thinks that she still likes the guy that Olive went on like 2 dates with, her friend has a crush on that guy. Olive wants to convince her friend that she doesn't have a crush on the guy anymore and that she's seeing someone else. And when she tells her friend that she was out on a date, her friend spots her in the biology lab, and Adam's the only other person around. So she asks him, "Can I kiss you?" Kisses him, and then her friend is like, okay, well, I guess she's over the guy she was seeing because she's moved on with this person who I don't know why, because he's, a professor and also grumpy and grouchy and that kind of thing. And in order to sort of keep up the ruse that she's over the guy that her friend wanted to see, and she's very supportive, by the way, of her friend wanting to date this guy. She really does not care about him in that way at all. Olive and Adam decide to start a fake relationship to further convince her friend, and also Adam has his own reasons for that have to do with university politics or whatever. And the rest of the story sort of plays out, with their academic stuff going on in the background and their relationship that's going somewhere, but very slowly and tentatively, because they're in a fake relationship, but they don't really know each other that well because they've never really spoken to each other. It's fun to read about people who are just awkward. To me, other people have secondhand embarrassment. I am not afflicted by any such thing. So I just really love reading about all these weird stuff that they have to do to convince her friend that they're in a relationship with each other. I found all of those things extremely funny. So from what you can hear from that, the tropes are obviously fake dating is definitely the main one. Grumpy Sunshine is definitely a big part of it too. And there's also a slight age gap between the characters because the one is a grad student and the other one is faculty. But it's not, I think it's 8 years or something, so it's not a big age gap for the stage of their life that they're in. I don't know, some people didn't like it. I really didn't think it was an issue. So those are the tropes. My rose for this book is that I have read this 7 times. Enough said. My thorn for this book is that we only have 2 chapters from Adam's POV. They've been released after the book was published. One of them is in later versions of the book. The one that I have, I got this one secondhand. It has the bonus chapter. It has Adam's POV of one of the chapters in the book. And then there was another one that was released very recently. I think it was in a newsletter or something, but I wasn't subscribed to the newsletter, so I had to get it through other means, which is the first chapter with the inciting incident where they kiss in the biology lab in the middle of the night. I don't necessarily like a dual POV book, but I would like the entire love hypothesis from Adam's POV because it's just so fun to read. Moving swiftly on to Love on the Brain, which is my arch nemesis, but I will give it its time in the sun. So the plot for this one is that there are 2 scientists, Bee and Levi, who are working at NASA, and they have to co-lead a project. Hell if I know what project it is. I read this book when it came out. I don't really remember much about it, but I did look things up before I started making this video. And they have a little bit of history from grad school, and they don't like each other because of that. And there's also a you've got male sort of subplot, and I don't know if I really cared for it. It's pretty obvious from the start that is what's going on. This is definitely the book that I think gives credence to a criticism that I see very often for Ali Hazelwood, which is that her books are all the same, just in a different font. I would argue this isn't even in a different font than The Love Hypothesis. It's just plagiarism. Ali Hazelwood plagiarized herself for this one. In other instances, I might not have minded it, apart from the fact that I found the characters extremely, extremely boring. That being said, I read it in a day. Did I hate read it in a day? Maybe. But I do think that this one is just, for me, not as strong as any of her other books. I'll just talk you through the tropes for this one. So this one is enemies to lovers, forced proximity, because they're working on a project together, and also the sort of you've got mail, dual sort of relationship that they have in person and then online. My rose for this book, however, is that both the main characters are vegan, and I'm vegan, and I've never ever seen a main character who is vegan in a book before. So I appreciated that, but I didn't appreciate it enough to love this book. She got me there. She did get me for like 2 seconds, but it wasn't enough to convince me. Nice try, Ali. My thorn is, like I said earlier, it does feel like this one is truly just a ripoff of The Love Hypothesis. It kind of bums me out because I feel like there are things about each of her books that are noticeably different from the other ones, but because this book is so similar to The Love Hypothesis, I'm like, I can't say that she doesn't follow the same like formula for each of her books, because she has done that, and she's done it with her second one. So I feel like a lot of people might, if they're reading chronologically like I did, they'll just be like, well, I don't want to read further. And that is where they will make the biggest mistake of their lives, because her third book is called Love Theoretically, and it is amazing. Full disclosure, I have read Love Theoretically, 2.5 times. I'm halfway through reading it right now. You can see. Regardless, Love Theoretically is about Elsie, who is a pathological people pleaser, and she works 2 jobs. One of them is as a theoretical physicist, and the other one is as a professional fake dater. And the reason why she does this is because as a theoretical physicist, she's like an adjunct professor, which basically means that she gets 0 money. And being a fake dater helps her to just sort of, fill in the gaps. She gets an interview at MIT, which she's really excited about because it means that she can actually like get health insurance and stuff. And she has type 1 diabetes. So like it's very important for her to get health insurance. I mean, it's important for anyone, but especially someone with a chronic illness. And when she arrives at the interview for this job at MIT, she realizes that one of the people who work there and who are going to be conducting this interview with her is a man called Jack Smith, who is the brother of someone that she's fake dated in the past. And he does not believe anything that she's saying. He's very skeptical about her. And she because she already has this sort of history with him, she decides she's not going to care about what he thinks about her. She's not going to mold herself into the version that he wants of her. She's just kind of going to do whatever she wants. And because of that, she feels extremely relaxed in his presence because she doesn't have to like put on a specific front. And I really like this sort of dynamic just because it feels maybe more realistic than some of Ali Hazelwood's other books do. And I think that the sort of like twists and turns that this book takes because of that specific setup is very sweet to me. And I just really liked reading about it. It felt very rewarding to read it. Their relationship felt very earned towards the end of the book. And I really like the academic setting. Again, very much like The Love Hypothesis. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was well enough explained that I knew what was going on the whole time without me having to really care too much about the science, because I can't do that. The tropes, as you can probably deduct, are like academic rivals to lovers. There's also like a sort of subplot of her being a theoretical physicist and him being an experimental physicist and how that sort of tension evolves. There's obviously the fake dating trope, but it's subverted because she's a professional fake dater and she doesn't fake date the love interest, which I thought was really fun. And then there's also the forced proximity trope because they are very close to each other for a couple of days while she's interviewing at the university. My rose for this book is that this is for the Mirrorball girlies who want to be Bejeweled girlies. If you know, you know. And my thorn is that it's the most underrated of her books. It really is. Like, I have seen so many people like ride or dying for Love Hypothesis, deserved, but also for some of her more recent books like Deep End or Problematic Summer Romance, which I understand to a certain extent. But I think this is just, it's more fun to me. Maybe just a me thing. Maybe I'm the only one who likes it and I can just gatekeep it forever. That's fun too. Then we've got Ali Hazelwood number 4, which is called Not in Love. This one follows a dual narrative POV, so we've got both love interests narrating their different parts. We've got Rue, who works as a biotech engineer at a startup, and we've got Eli, who works at a fucking finance place. I don't know what it's called. And they meet each other very shortly before the company that Eli works for wants to take over the startup that Rue works for. And because of that meeting that they have very shortly before the sort of clash between the two places, they end up having like a secret relationship with each other. They both have a lot of baggage as well. That this one's definitely a heavier sort of book than Ali Hazelwood's normal vibe, I guess you would say. But I think it was handled pretty well. Like, there's stuff from both of their childhoods and their family relationships and things that sort of get in the way of them actually having a normal relationship together. And they sort of just have a no strings attached, like, enemies with benefits sort of situation, which is fine. I don't personally like it that much, but I thought it was well written. And that's kind of one of the tropes that I would ascribe to the book, which is like the enemies with benefits, like enemies to lovers sort of thing. And there's also obviously the forbidden romance, which I've already alluded to. I thought those aspects were interesting, but I have to say, in general, like enemies to lovers, enemies with benefits, those sorts of things just don't work for me personally that much. I like friends to lovers. That's more my speed. So it's just not for my personal taste. But I do think my rose for this book would be that because this book is so tonally different from Ali Hazelwood's other books, if you didn't like her other books or you were really put off by sort of the style that she uses in them, I think you would like this one because it's a lot more mature in a way, and the characters are less like silly. Which is maybe why I don't like it as much, because if I'm reading a romance book, I kind of want my characters to be at least a little bit silly. And then my thorn for this one. There are so many finance bros in this book. Why are there so many finance bros in an Ali Hazelwood book? That's not what I signed up for. I will say, however, there was a lot of Elon Musk hateration going on and points for that. But beyond that, there was too much finance bro stuff. Then the second last book that I'm going to talk about is Deep End, which is about Scarlett and Lucas, who are on their college's diving and swimming teams, respectively. And it's sort of like a sports romance about them getting together. Lucas had a very long relationship with his ex-girlfriend, and they were sort of like the it couple. But then they suddenly break up, and this ex-girlfriend finds out something about Scarlett, who she's pretty good friends with because they're both on the diving team together. And she's like, oh, you guys should like date each other, but don't tell anyone because I don't want people to know that Lucas and I aren't dating anymore. So I guess it's like ex drama. I didn't really mind the friend drama that much. It was kind of entertaining, not gonna lie, but it's definitely like a setup that maybe people won't like. I didn't mind it. So anyway, Lucas and Scarlett end up having a relationship with each other, and they are, let's say, compatible. And a very big part of the book is just sort of about their relationship evolving alongside the like swimming and diving competitions that they participate in, and the STEM academia in which they are both like very involved in because they both want to become doctors. And I just really liked reading about their relationship because they had such a good like back and forth, and the characters like felt very fleshed out. The main tropes for this book, I would say, are sports romance, college romance, and like secret relationship. I liked the combination that Ali Hazelwood had of these things. It wasn't my absolute favorite, mostly because of the thorn that I'm giving this book, which is that it was like 450 pages. I don't think any romance book needs to be over 400 pages long. There, I said it. I don't think it has to be. I think if you can't achieve what you want to achieve in less than 400 pages in a romance book, you should reconsider some of the plot points. But I do think the rose for this book is that both of the characters like had their own mental health struggles, which wasn't as like heavy as a Not in Love, for example, but it was still very delicately handled. And I thought that it was very nice that it actually formed a part of like their relationship evolution, like the fact that they were able to share these sorts of things with each other. It was very believable that they shared certain things at different points in their relationship with each other. And I think that's a very positive thing to see in a romance book, like the mental health representation as part of the relationship, and it's part of the reason why the relationship works out. I thought that was well done. And then lastly, we've got Ali Hazelwood's most recent adult rom-com book, which is called Problematic Summer Romance. This is a spin-off for Not in Love, and it follows Eli's sister and co-worker, Maya and Connor, who were very good friends with each other, unbeknownst to Eli, and who had like a falling out about a year prior to the start of the book. And then in the book, Eli and Rue are getting married in Italy, and they're flying everyone over there to go to the wedding. And then Connor and Maya have to like, interact with each other again because they're both in this beautiful Italian villa for a week. And it's sort of how they reckon with this falling out that they had and the reasons for it and the reason that they hid from each other for this falling out, and them trying to sort of come to terms with the attraction that they have for each other despite their very significant age gap. I think it's like 15 years. So problematic for a reason, but those things are addressed ad nauseum in this book. I do know a lot of people really, really love this book, and I think it is for a good reason because the banter in this book is probably some of my favorite that Ali Hazelwood has ever written. For the tropes, I would obviously say it's an age gap relationship, and then there's also a lot of like grumpy sunshine sort of vibes going on, and we've also got the forced proximity because they're in a Italian villa together. What a hardship. My rose for this book is that I actually think it's a more compelling story than Not in Love, and I am very impressed that Ali Hazelwood managed to write a spin-off for the book that was more interesting than the original book. I don't think that's easy. And then my thorn for this one is that it is a split narrative that I didn't like very much. I sometimes like a split narrative, like when the story takes place in two timelines. So we obviously have the main timeline, which is when they are in Italy at this wedding, and the previous timeline sort of follows their relationship evolving from the first interaction that they have up until the time when they have their falling out. It was important to know those things, I guess, but I wasn't that convinced that the split narrative was necessary. Sometimes felt like it was interrupting the flow of the story a little bit for me, so I didn't like it as much as I've liked other split narratives. It's still a very entertaining story. I thought that the romance was very well done for how many things could have gone wrong in the story, and it was really just a fun time. So now that you know which books I have read so far, I wanted to just address some of the criticisms that I've seen Ali Hazelwood's books get in the past. I've sort of mentioned a couple of them, like that they're all sort of the same plot. Another criticism that I've seen very often, which is kind of very much related to that one, is that in all of Ali Hazelwood's books, it kind of suffers from the big man, tiny woman syndrome. And I do get that. However, I really don't care about that. It doesn't bother me. But I do think a lot of times it feels to me like people just care way too much about what characters look like. I just don't know if it's that important. You know what I mean? Like, I do get that sometimes authors like really hammer home what a character looks like. They'll overly focus on like hair color, eye color, that kind of thing. But I just don't know if it's that important. I don't really care about that. Maybe it's because when I'm reading a book, I don't really imagine like it as a movie, like what things look like. I kind of just let the emotions take me away. So maybe that's why it doesn't bother me, but I do think people overemphasize how annoying that is. I get both sides of the conversation is basically what I'm saying. Another thing that a lot of people say is that they don't like the amount of contemporary references that Ali Hazelwood makes in her books. And to that I say, I also really don't care. If I'm reading a romance book that's set in 2025 and they're not mentioning Instagram, I'm going to be like, this is very unrealistic. So I do think it is necessary to have some of those things. Do I think like major plot points have to like depend on those things? No. But I do think it is kind of necessary for it to feel like a modern story. And to sort of go off of that, a lot of people also say that her stories feel unrealistic. If you're reading romance books for realism, you have to check yourself. That's not why romance books exist. They're not here to tell us this is exactly what life is like. I don't know if that is necessarily a good criticism for a romance book. It's a book. It's a romance book. It's supposed to romanticize that kind of relationship. And then the other thing is that the characters have advanced degrees, but they're very stupid. I really don't mind this. This makes me chuckle. It's funny to me. It's a rom-com. I want to laugh. I want to giggle. I want to kick my feet. I want to be like, oh yes, I've got my two little dolls and I'm gonna make them kiss. That's what I read romance books for. Anyway, without further ado, here is my ranking for Ali Hazelwood's books. So at the bottom, Love on the Brain. Who's surprised? Number 5 is Not in Love. Not because it isn't good, just because it wasn't for me. Next is Problematic Summer Romance. I liked it more than Not in Love, but didn't love it. Probably wouldn't ever reread it. Deep End would be number 3 for me. I did enjoy this one. Maybe I'll reread it at a different time, but because it's so long, I doubt it. If I just want to get through a book quickly, this is not the one that I would reach for immediately. I would go for either number 2, Love Theoretically, or number 1, Love Hypothesis, which are perfect books, in my humble opinion. They aren't perfect books for everyone, but I love them. They were written for me. When Ali Hazelwood sat down at her computer to write these books, she was like, target audience, Kara. That was what she sat down to do. She's like, what book does Kara want to read? And then she sat down and wrote that. And I have to respect that. Just before I finish up here, I did want to mention some of the other books that she's written, because Ali Hazelwood, much like Hamilton, is writing like she's running out of time. I don't know how or when this woman sleeps, because she has been publishing books consistently since 2021. So it's only been 4 years since she debuted, and she's already got like a bibliography as long as my arm, which is insane. So she's written some paranormal romance books, which are called Bride and Mate, and I believe they are connected to each other. I don't like fantasy, so I'm not planning on reading these ones, but I do know that a lot of people who have read these ones say they were really good. Happy for you guys. There was one YA book that she's written so far, which is called Check and Mate. I might check this one out, actually, because I'm not really a big YA reader, but I am a big Ali reader, apparently. So I might just read this one because it seems like the closest to the books that I have already read and enjoyed by her. It's about chess, in case the title didn't make it clear. I know nothing else about it, though. I do know that they're rivals, but that's pretty much all I know, and that's pretty much part and parcel for an Ali book, so. And then she's also written a whole bunch of novellas. I have actually read the 3 novellas in the Loathe to Love You series, but I genuinely cannot remember anything about them. I read them in 2022. Could not tell you a single thing that happens in those books. They are genuinely indistinguishable to me. She's also written some other paranormal novellas, which I also am not planning on reading because, again, paranormal romance, just not my thing. But other people who have read them have loved them as well. So if you are into fantasy and you think you want to try out Ali Hazelwood, maybe that's a good place to start. I don't know. People in the comments can let you guys know about that if you want to share. And that's everything that I've got on the topic of Ali Hazelwood. If you have read her books, please let me know what your ranking is, because I always find that super interesting. And if you've never read any of her books, first of all, kudos to you for watching to the end for this. That's pretty brave. And which one of her books do you think you would pick up first? And if for any reason on earth Ali Hazelwood is watching this video, first of all, thank you, Queen, for helping me get out of my mental health crisis. I really appreciate it. You will probably do so again, and I love you for that. That's everything for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that if you ever need to pick up a romance book, this is a helpful place for you to come and just figure out which one you want to read. I will see you again soon with another video, and until then, take care.